If you could go back in time, would you make War in Chiraq again?
You know, I've grown. Was it appropriate? Probably wouldn't do that again. I wouldn't do it again just because I think we're dealing with mental illness in Chicago.
DJ Akademiks is one of the most controversial and simultaneously the most polarizing and charismatic figure in hip-hop.
What top 5 you smoking on, Kendrick? Because my top 5 is Drake.
If we broke it off, then you know it wasn't painless.
And at the same time, he has played a part in the damage and exploitation of the Chicago black community with his infamous War in Chiraq series.
And I start doing it, and you know what the funny thing is? Everything I thought that people would be like, yo, this is some sick shit, they loved.
This series, along with other controversies, would cause him to be regarded as one of the most hated people in hip-hop to date.
We're gonna close on a sad note. Rapper Fredo Santana died this weekend. He was only 27 years old.
Yeah, I want to extend a sincere... Don't do it. Don't do it. Don't now sit here and give us a somber fucking moment.
Downtown shootings up more than 200%.
When you, sir, the modern day P.T. Barnum, you gave us the greatest gift to hip hop, and that was the War in Chiraq.
One child is killed in Chicago every week on average.
And you put a saddle on that guy's back and you rode him in a fucking circus. Don't sit here now and give fucking RIPs and sincere heartfelt bullshit. Don't do it.
Now, DJ Akademiks' story strikes a strong resemblance to an archetypal character I've been reading, Dr. Faustus, a character who essentially sells his soul in exchange for knowledge and power. Today, I'll be talking about the greater themes and connections between these two individuals and their stories, and if the hate Akademiks receives is justified, or if redemption is possible. May 17th, 1989, Spanish Town, Jamaica. Alan Livingston is brought into the world. A majority of his childhood he would spend studying extremely often due to his mom being a teacher and always had top grades in his class.
My mom, teacher, father, principal. I didn't know this. We had no life. All we did was just like bookwork. Yeah. As a kid, that was just normal though. We didn't know. I used to believe I was gifted with being smart, not realizing, no, nigga, you just never went outside.
Eventually, his mom would leave him and his brother in Jamaica to immigrate to the U.S.
We thought she was fucking rich because she was like in Jamaica, like living in the countryside. Like your family would send out these big barrels of just supplies. She would send all these things down and we're like, yo, mom gotta be loaded.
She worked 3 jobs, lived in poor conditions, and eventually paid an American man $20,000 to marry her so that she could become a U.S. citizen. In a 2021 Bridgewater University study, immigrant families are often closely bonded, fostering a sense of responsibility in their children. This can contribute to academic success. However, this can lead to heightened pressure on the children to do exceptionally well, despite their conditions. Alan's young immigrant view of the U.S. was much like any other immigrant's view.
Coming, at least from that time in Jamaica, hearing the story of America, they didn't even call it America, they call it foreign. Like, it was so glamorized. I thought when the plane took off from Jamaica, I thought we were gonna land on the fucking clouds.
Alan would move to the United States in 2001. He would soon learn that America was not the place he dreamed of.
Again, it was just a story of kind of like quickly realizing like the stories of what you heard that the United States was ain't it. And you got to cut it out. And this whole, you think you've made it because you got there. No, the work just started.
Alan would coast his way through middle school and high school, maintaining high grades, but during this time, he was socially ostracized.
I came in around 7th grade. They looked at me, and I never fit in. I had to assimilate to American culture. They looked at me as the weird Jamaican kid.
Alan would graduate and would go on to attend Rutgers University, where he would attempt to become a doctor and was really starting to feel the pressure.
And my mom was just always honest about grades. And it was just basically kind of like an overtone, like, yo, we're sending you to college to become like something esteemed. We want doctors and lawyers. So it became, yo, you gotta be something. And that pressure is on.
Alan would party a majority of his first year, making him fail a class, and he would eventually switch over to a biomathematics degree. Due to the party and frat culture at Rutgers University, Alan would soon pick up DJing.
My homies are like, yo, we gotta start throwing parties, yo. Everybody wanna party. They're like, yo, first of all, we need a DJ. They're like, yo, you be fucking around with this, like, you know, because I had like virtual DJ looping soul samples. Like, of course I could DJ. So we started throwing like parties and shit like that. And that's when we kind of like started gaining like a little bit of traction. Now this has helped building my name. I'm like doing like these events, like people are like calling me for shit.
He would start to get invited to more parties and even throw his own, and he would soon become one of the biggest DJs on campus. Now during Alan's time in college is also where we would get our first glimpse on his small but relevant views on Black Americans.
Vlad, I'm gonna tell you something, and this might be controversial, but for the people who don't know, you go to any college these days, the people who work the hardest, we're gonna, no respect, we're moving white people out of the mix. You see them Africans who are immigrants, they fucking study all night. And other immigrants, they go crazy. Only people who I be see chilling, a lot of the Black Americans, they be in there cooling like this is a chill out. And I don't fault them because it's a mentality thing. I've been talking to people about that.
It's unfair and inaccurate to generalize the actions of a few individuals to an entire group. If we take a look at Brown University graduation rates, American Indian and Alaskan Natives have the lowest graduation rate at 67%. Now I can also throw out a generalized statement, like they're not as dedicated as others, or they just don't even care about school. But this is just not true. There are other factors like poverty, lack of support due to cultural differences, and other unique socioeconomic factors that also play into these numbers. While individual responsibility is an important factor, it's also important to have a broader perspective when discussing these issues. Alan found early success DJing and would want to move on to the next level, so he joined his college radio.
I seen it, man. I listened to that new track we about to premiere, and I'm like, yo, my man might be the R&B future. Like, what's going on in here? You know what I mean? You singing directly to the chicks out here.
He essentially turned the college radio into a gossip channel, talking more about popular drama on campus instead of actually playing music.
Actually, they used to say, play more music, speak less, right? And that was the motto for the whole station. And I used to come on that shit. I'm like, I play one song and I'm like, I'm talking for the rest of this bitch.
The college obviously wasn't a big fan of this, knowing his days were numbered. On October 13th, 2012, the DJ Akademiks channel was officially created on YouTube. Alan didn't want to lose the momentum he built up during his time on college radio, so he would post his radio shows onto his YouTube channel. He would eventually branch out his content into hip-hop gossip and album reviews.
Yo, check it out. It's your boy DJ Akademiks, and man, somebody better check Wale and give that nigga a wedgie.
Soon after college, he would get a job at Verizon, and during his breaks, he would go to his car and record YouTube videos about recent hip-hop drama and news.
Cool, so I get a job because DJing just wasn't that lucrative, but it made me enough to like pay rent. I get the job, and I'm like in the back of my car recording YouTube videos when I would tell my boss, like, yo, I gotta go to the bathroom. So yeah, something happens, I say, yo, I gotta go to the bathroom. I run to my car, make a video on it right then. People even know I had a job.
He would be at a point in his YouTube career where he would have multiple channels and be posting almost 7 times a day. Fortunately, YouTube's monetization was starting to pick up, and he would receive one of his first checks, which was $38,000 for the month.
And, fortunately, the monetization was getting a lot better for YouTube at that time. And I remember the day I realized I had to quit, I got a check from YouTube, and it was like $38,000.
Now, Alan still chose to work at Verizon. He was still fond of his coworkers and liked his job in general. In a way, he was still grounded to his personal life outside of YouTube. But there was something that would make him finally quit.
And I remember the moment I took a leap of faith and I quit my job was someone came into my cubicle. And at that point, no one knew who I looked, but they all knew my voice because I would just do voiceovers. And I said, what up? Because I was the computer fix-it guy at Verizon. I was like, hey, give me a computer, I'm about to fix it. And he's like, yo, you know who you sound like? You sound like this guy on YouTube, man. And he's like, yo, you sound like Akademiks. And I'm like, yeah, I'm Ak. And he's like, no fucking way. He's like, why are you here? And I just didn't have an answer to that question. But really, the answer was I was too scared to quit.
During this time, he was completely enveloped in the YouTube and hip-hop media space and began to foster somewhat of a risky mindset.
Yes.
So that's what you wanted to be then?
Yeah, well, I mean, I wanted to just be in the game by any means possible, but I didn't want to be I wanted to be a media guy.
His passion for YouTube started to grow more and more, and at this point, he was fully invested in growing his YouTube channel.
I'm armed with the tools of me being a math major. I'm studying it. Mm-hmm. So I'm like, wait, 1,000 people tuned in, and I only had 300 after the first 30 seconds. What the fuck am I doing wrong?
He soon realized a big part of his recent success was him being able to upload first. So he would dedicate his entire day into tracking, covering, and posting hip-hop media as fast as he could.
So if it happened today, within 2 hours, I'm already talking about it. So by the time the Breakfast Club told about it, I've been talking about it. I beat him to the punch, quicker, more efficient. I was on it every day. I was just sitting around. I lost a lot of friends. I lost shit. I think I gained weight. I was just sitting in my apartment just like, yo, what's gonna happen to hip hop?
This was a price Allen was more than willing to pay, and he kept the same ambitious mindset, whatever it takes to make it. Allen's channel would continue to grow, and he would gain more notoriety. And in mid-2014, Allen would start to notice a pattern.
And every time I would do a video on Lil Durk, Lil Reese, or Chief Keef, and also Fredo Santana, they'd be like, yo, you gotta cover the whole thing. So I said this, and again, now I'm so in tune with the audience. I'm gonna create a separate page. And I say, you guys support it if you're really into it. So I created the War in Chiraq.
June 24th, 2014, the War in Chiraq was created. Before we learn about the future mistakes Allen makes, I think now's the best time to learn about his connection to Dr. Faustus. Dr. Faustus is a highly intelligent scholar who's dissatisfied by his limited earthly knowledge. Faustus was extremely ambitious, and this caused tunnel vision on his mind, making him disregard ethical and moral principles, causing him to do questionable actions. His mind is set on one thing: achieve his goals by any means necessary. Faustus would begin to grow a fascination for the dark arts. He would begin to study necromancy and dark magic, and would eventually summon a demon, Mephistopheles. Due to Faust's unquenchable ambition, he offers Mephistopheles a deal. He offers his soul in exchange for 24 years of knowledge and power. Mephistopheles accepts this deal, but as we soon find out, this does not come without cost. The War in Chiraq would be an instant hit. Allen would post 2 to 3 videos a day covering Chicago gang culture and rappers, a majority of whom were in their teens at the time.
It's your boy DJ Akademiks, and now Shy fucking Rack, the place where the Legion of Croons reside, you know what that is. The coalition of super Croons animals that's armed with the common war tools, bombs, grenades, C4s, anti-tank rocket launchers, dynamite, and of course, a bus pass.
He would cover gang beefs, drill rap violence, and even deaths in what he called a satirical manner.
I was trying to figure out, how do I cover hip-hop in this realm, because a lot of the things I didn't like, I was mortified by. And I said, the only appropriate way is I did it with satire.
Here's an example of his satire in use while addressing a 9-year-old who was killed.
And one of the gang members saw him, thought he was one of the ops, and actually smoked on his pack. Well, smoked on a 9-year-old pack. What is that, a mini pack? Whatever.
Obviously, he had a very flawed view of satire, if you could even call it that. There's a very famous quote: satire is tragedy plus time. You give it enough time, the public will allow you to satirize it. But if you guys remember, a big thing Allen prided himself in was being the first to report news within the community.
So if it happened today, within 2 hours, I'm already talking about it.
He would be posting these videos 2 to 4 hours after these people were injured, shot, or even killed. He would start to coin popular rappers with nicknames like Lil Reese, the Grim Reaper, Fredo Santana, the Chiraq Demon, and Lil J, the Wolverine.
I was giving them nicknames like, yo, these dudes are evil. Everybody was like, no, these names are fucking cool.
These names might seem trivial at first, but they had a big impact on the Chicago community and even his audience. Allen was indirectly dehumanizing these individuals by giving them these nicknames. These names would make you treat these individuals as characters rather than actual people going through these events.
But I'd never seen a place where life was valued less than Chicago. To this day, I've never been to Chicago because of that.
Like, this shit came like a movie to people. Like, when it first got famous, people started like, it was like we was characters. Like, damn, like, you got me look like an assassin.
Allen knew exactly what he had to do to market this type of content to his audience. What sounds better? Derek Coleman almost died from a seizure, or the Chiraq Demon was almost killed? Dirk Banks ends senseless beef with rapper Tyga, or the Chiraq 5-star war general spares Tyga's life? Lil Reese would even go on to take the name Allen had given him, the Grim Reaper, even naming one of his albums after it. Allen wasn't a spectator anymore. He was playing an active role in the Chicago violence. His videos had an impact that bled through the screen into the community itself. It got to a point where a majority of these videos would just be him punching down on these people, whether it be the gang members or the victims themselves.
Do you see why they start gentrification and start kicking you out of your own fucking neighborhoods, and then you can't really complain? Because you show each and every day that you're not humans. You're almost even too good to be called coons. I'm doing you a favor by calling you coons.
While Allen may appear to be the sole individual responsible for this content, he wasn't acting alone. The audience played an equal role in this content being produced. There was always an audience for this content. There just was never a YouTuber to cross the line and make these type of videos. Allen is a surrogate or a manifestation of his fans' desires. So pretty much suburban kids and edgy internet dwellers who have this bizarre fixation on violence and nihilism.
You know, obviously to a bunch of people who lived in the suburbs who were watching me, there was just common shit like, oh yeah, we smoking on so-and-so today. And I'm like, damn, that's someone that died. Yeah. Nobody cared. You know, especially when you start covering certain shit as journalists, like I'm seeing videos and pictures of shit. I'm like, yo, this is gory. But these motherfuckers is talking about it like it's a video game.
And Allen gave them the perfect content to get their fix, indirectly feeding them a limited scope of black culture. During this time, Allen was posting both on his main channel and the War in Chiraq, which was strange considering his main page was beating out the War in Chiraq in numbers.
By the way, me covering the Chicago stuff was never bigger than what I was covering on my main page. Like, it's always had less than half the subscribers on my main page, but the story was never as compelling as the War in Chiraq, because it felt like an ongoing saga.
This means his motivation for making these videos was pretty much entirely from his own interest. And let it be known, even without the War in Chiraq, Allen was growing at a fast rate. He would have become a successful commentator with or without making the War in Chiraq. But Allen had made his choice. He was far more interested in covering and satirizing, I'm saying that word loosely by the way, this type of content, regardless of the negative impact it had. And whether he was aware of it or not, he was directly capitalizing off the violent conflicts, beefs, and in some cases deaths of these individuals. In belief that the payoff of making these videos would only further his career, Allen, in a metaphorical sense, has struck his deal.
Did you feel responsible for like inflaming gang tension on the streets by covering things?
Hell no. But let me tell you, this accountability is hard to take. I don't believe I caused any murder, but if my videos, because they were popular, instigated any two parties, I'll take blame for that.
In a moment of weakness, Faust had struck his deal, and for a short time he reveled in his newfound power, performing miracles and groundbreaking research. But as days turned to weeks and weeks turned to months, the euphoria began to fade, and the price of his soul grew heavier with each passing moment. He ultimately realized that there are unintended consequences that directly affect himself and the people around him. He starts to experience a deep regret and resentment for his actions. His lack of moral, emotional, and spiritual principles start to take a toll on him. This begins to warp and twist his mind until the only real emotion he feels is fear. And his power is soon seen only as a constant reminder of his impending doom. Faustus would find himself descending into a whirlpool of vice and depravity. As the consequences of his bargain unfolded, his suffering intensified. His wealth and power brought him no joy. The knowledge he sought out so desperately only deepened his despair. He was slowly starting to break. On March 26, 2017, Allen would stop uploading on the War in Chiraq. During this time, he was extremely popular in the early hip-hop commentator scene, so he was picked up by Complex's new podcast, Everyday Struggle.
Oh, I was huge on covering, like, you know, people like Uzi and Cardi, like back in 2016. 2017 comes, I get a call from a place called Complex, and they said, yo, we want you to go get on screen or try out for this show, which is you and a rapper just doing what they do on First Take, or if you watch Undisputed, it's just a debate show. We want to do it for rap.
Catching up on Chiraq news apparently got too out of control and overwhelming to continue making videos.
Now, the War in Chicago stuff, like, it's just getting out of control. It's getting out of control. Like, every day I put up, I'm still trying to do like at least 3 videos, and everyone's like, yo, what's up with a Chicago video? What's up with a War in Chiraq video? And I'm like, I'm trying to balance all of this, but also, like, I just don't know where this thing is going.
During his time on Everyday Struggle, Allen would move on to becoming a more mainstream figure, but he eventually started to realize he was still tied to his past.
do you feel drill is like done? Because you also mentioned that you felt you were a little bit repulsed by the fact that so many people outside the culture of Chicago, they hyped up the music, not knowing that real lives were being affected, deaths and other type of madness happened within the music, and the music was a real life depiction of that. Like, how did you feel about that?
I wanted to slap you in your face, and I'm just seeing you here, so I'm like, this is a tame environment, so I would keep it to my words, but I really felt as if people like you sensationalized and made a following off of clowning situations that we go through in real life. And I think, you know, niggas ain't had no right. You know, you specifically, like, you ain't never have a right. Like, whatever made you feel like you had a space to have a perspective on our people dying on a daily basis?
He would get called out dozens of times over the war in Chiraq and the way he covers hip-hop media in general. A majority of Everyday Struggle's popularity was based around Allen, but it was for him being bullied by the guests or even his own co-hosts.
He took a line from you and you took the same line from another nigga.
And you fat as fuck, and nigga shut the fuck up. What did you refer to Fredro? No, fuck that shit. What did you refer to Fredro as in all those clips in the war in Chiraq? Shit. What'd you refer to him as?
I'm speaking about his death.
The demon. No. Fuck all that. Trying to polish your shit up now. You referred to him as the demon. You clowned him.
Wait. My integrity in all this
Little
shit.
niggas got no accountability nowadays. Keep it on him.
Okay, and the same way when something happens, whatever, and
stop reporting on street shit. The street shit will escalate to a point where you're not gonna report on it. And you can't report on it. What else? I hate to have these conversations on platforms like this, but I have to.
Everyday Struggle would become one of the biggest hip-hop shows on YouTube, and Allen would continue to grow his name, brand, and platform, but he was pretty much considered the punching bag of the hip-hop community. But he eventually realized something that I believe is pretty critical to how the rest of his future in this space would play out. During this time, Allen was at the top of hip-hop commentary. His influence and outreach could not be replicated by any other media outlet. And while he did have a chokehold on hip-hop media, nearly every music community had a strong dislike for him. But regardless, they had to watch him because there was no alternative at the time. He was pretty much in a league of his own. Now that Allen didn't have to worry about competition, he had more leniency on how he could talk about other artists. So he did what he did best. He spoke his mind.
But a nigga like Nav, you rode Weekend's coat, you pretty much an industry plant. But I'm glad you actually fucked with I'm a demon when it comes to media. I'm glad you did. Cause at every fucking weight position, I will be pointing out why Nav is a fucking industry plant, a fucking Indian nigga trying to infiltrate the culture who really was on some bullshit at first. Meek, you cannot cancel anyone, bro. Literally, I'm a news page, I'm a blogger. You've been mad at me since I posted that one of your projects flopped. Yo, you were under my, oh my God, yo, it was an EP. It flopped. Get over it. Get out of your feelings. You're a sensitive gangster, like, yo, hyped up, like.
Allen would become way more blatant and controversial, getting into beefs with huge figures like Meek Mill, Nipsey Hussle, and even Nicki Minaj.
DJ Akademiks is a meatball to me, so he said stuff. He said some stuff about Chicago, rubbed me the wrong way.
Yeah, he's a buster. He's a weirdo. Niggas will whoop his ass in real life. He behind the camera, and you guys just let clowns be clowns, man.
Right.
So, you know, niggas like him get weeded out quick. He got a little internet run going on, but, you know, we just gotta let himself destruct, because he's on the path.
As Allen's ego grew more and more, a lot of his insecurities began to shine to the public.
You're like, yo, if y'all niggas got a problem, whatever. But it's really at me. So them niggas, I don't really got time for that. So, and I know I might be getting a little bit emotional, I ain't gonna lie to y'all. But this is facts. I don't got time for these media niggas, bro. Like, I don't got time for the games y'all play. I'm gonna tell y'all 100%. And I know a lot of media niggas might be watching now. I've been making more money than y'all before y'all even signed to y'all companies. I've been doing it on my own. Don't try me.
This clip was in context of Allen addressing Deus and Mero for calling him out. Always having the pressure of thousands of people criticizing you and clowning you every day, Allen eventually got emotional and broke during his response. And of course, the public dragged him for this. This instance for most content creators would make them take a break for a while, but it was the opposite for Allen. His ego and reckless behavior only continued to increase. He would stream a lot more often on Twitch, where nearly in every stream he would be drunk, including his most viral clips.
Shit. Chat. Y'all see, alcohol don't freeze, by the way. I took this out of the freezer. Oh, that's about 4 shots.
Yo, do a shot right now. I need to see you do a triple shot right now for the people.
I'm gonna get a cup.
A triple shot.
I want to see you, I want to see you fry your eye right now. For all the times that me and you've been through, I need to see you pour the craziest shot right now. And do it right now for the people.
Sometime after this, his girlfriend at the time would have to come in and turn off the stream due to him passing out from being too drunk. Allen would start to gain the reputation of him allegedly being an alcoholic due to him going on drunken rants and tirades when anyone would mention his name in a negative light. Everyday struggle would soon come to an end, and by around this time, Allen had one of the biggest hip-hop media platforms on the internet, to the point where he would have major record labels reaching out to him to promote their artists.
Nigga, I got these labels under the palm of my hands. I diss them every week. They do nothing but still pay me, nigga. I'm not trying to be here and just talk money shit with y'all, but I'm trying to tell y'all the impact of what we got going on.
Everyone undoubtedly had a huge respect for the platform he built, but people had little to no respect for Allen as a person. Allen would get another chance at redeeming his name when he would reach a whole new audience and level of mainstream when he would go on the Fresh and Fit podcast and enter the red pill space. Allen's worldview a majority of the time is viewed under a conservative lens, and he aligns himself heavily with the Republican Party and even shares some of their same ideals.
But Vlad, I'm definitely voting for Trump next time.
Wait, you're voting for Trump?
What? Yes, I'm definitely voting for Trump, 100%.
Regardless of this, he still gave some valid criticism about the red pill space itself.
First of all, I don't believe in that red pill shit when niggas say alpha male. Nigga, I'm more critical of the red pill space more than I'm an advocate of it. I usually say I don't fuck with most of that shit because it's not applicable to the majority of guys who are listening to it.
Unfortunately, every time he would appear on the podcast, he would just get more and more drunk and start ranting and insulting the women, resulting in a lot of viral clips.
If I lose some weight and I become your broke ass, bitch ass boyfriend, right? Shit. No. And I start fucking with a masculine bitch like you with fake titties, right? With a fucking tattoo on your face.
Yeah, nigga.
Masculine as shit.
Yeah, so.
But I bet you live in a fucking Section 8 housing and I live in a fucking mansion with
These clips would go on to garner a lot of views and reactions from pretty big YouTube figures, most famously being Abba and Preach, who had no problem calling him out for his blatant insecurities.
Why do you feel the need to come tell me you have so much more when I don't care? That tells me that you're a loser on the inside. Even though you might be winning in these lives, how you look at yourself, the way that you internally view yourself, it's like, I am a bit of a loser.
Shit, maybe she is alpha. Fuck.
So all this rah-rah, all this need to get drunk and do all this wild stuff is evidence that you're a loser.
Yeah, I don't know. There's a certain energy to people that are like obsessively trying to show off like how much money they have, how famous they are, how popular they are, and I don't know, it always comes off as being like very insecure to me.
His argumentative nature and reckless rants would eventually culminate to the point where he would get a gun pulled on him live on the podcast.
Yo, Shorty. I was trying to dismiss you because you're a broke ass bitch who ain't get a babysitter who talking about you gotta go home to your kid. Nigga, go home to your little nigga and go handle your business, nigga.
Move to the left. Okay. Move to the left. I said move to the left. Yo, nigga, I said move to the left. Now. Everybody get to the fucking left. All right. If bullets come down this way, I ain't getting nobody fucking hurt.
Now, you could imagine his response to the situation would be something like, I got too drunk and antagonized her too much, putting myself in a bad situation, or even she was just crazy and luckily nobody got hurt. Here was his actual response.
So now I'm looking at her with the hand. I'm like, what you about to do, shoot this place up? I'm like, nigga, try it. I ain't gonna lie to you. I'm saying this because I'm trying to see my man's goal. Put her down. I'm gonna be honest.
When Allen first ventured into the hip-hop media space, his goal was to satirize the ridiculousness, fake toughness, and all-around nonsensical nature of hip-hop gangster culture. And now, a couple years down the line, he became the exact thing he sought out to cover. When Allen first entered the scene, he used to be a young and promising up-and-coming voice in hip-hop media. He was very sharp to the point where he was one of the first people to break down the YouTube algorithm and use it to his advantage. He was extremely charismatic and quick-witted. It was no surprise back then that he was definitely going to change the hip-hop media landscape, and he did. Somewhere along the way, his ambition went unchecked and blinded him to where he was headed, causing him to make long-lasting mistakes that he could not yet see, but would eventually pay for. Now, present-day Allen is overwhelmingly arrogant and blatantly spiteful.
I call him out, I diss him, we still gonna be straight. You know why? There is nobody, and I'm saying this, and any of y'all niggas who look up to me or even think you're past me, look at yourself and look at your voice. Your voice, when it comes to making a narrative and talking about an artist, is not bigger than mine. That's facts.
Swamped in many different vices like alcoholism and even gambling.
You know, I've thought about like substance abuse for probably the last like 10 years or so. 10, 12 years. I've drank almost damn near every day.
No, I'm
What do you
addicted.
mean you're addicted to gambling?
No, I am. And-
How
and-
so?
No, it's something that I'm not really proud about. Getting paid. No, this is like personal money. I've lost over $3 million gambling.
God damn. He's extremely argumentative to the point where he's constantly involved in some kind of controversy, and as confident as he tries to portray himself to be, it's as clear as day that he's overcompensating for how insecure he is. Allen has had a long and extremely successful career in hip-hop and media, influencing countless other creators through his content. He went from being a Jamaican immigrant to a poor college kid to creating a huge brand and platform and becoming a millionaire in the process. But en masse, a majority of hip-hop media and fans have a strong dislike for him. The internet even branded him the clown of hip-hop, and he himself even acted on what they made him out to be, and it seemed like this cycle would just continue on. But then something happened to Allen that happens to us all. Time. Put yourself in Allen's shoes. When all said and done, you've made your money and you're sitting down bored in your mansion, how many times would you think about how you built your platform and what mistakes you've made and truly say you did nothing wrong? The answer is, it depends. Some can go their entire lives lying to themselves, and some take pride in the terrible things they've done. And while Allen's an extremely egotistical and argumentative person, he's far from an idiot. So far, when he would ever be confronted about the war in Chiraq, he would always shift the blame.
You know, at least I stopped the war in Chiraq. Dirk is still rapping about niggas getting murdered every day, but you don't have smoke for him. However, y'all don't have the same smoke for the record label owners. When Chief Keef, you know who signed the most drill rappers? It was Interscope Records.
It is true that someone else would have made and profited off of this content if he didn't create it. And it is also true that record labels are directly capitalizing, and I'd even go as far to say as encouraging violence to generate more numbers. But all of these things don't abdicate you from your own individual responsibility. The war in Chiraq was Allen's channel, and he made his choice to make this type of content. Things would finally come full circle when one of the first people who would call out Allen, Vic Mensa, would go on his podcast. And Allen would go on to say the unexpected.
I was almost explaining to say, well, the rappers are doing it. Don't get mad at the blogger. I don't think at that moment I was at the point where I am now to say, you shouldn't treat that subject as you did. You know, while you might think it may have been satirical, it was the wrong thing to be satirical with. Mm-hmm. It was insensitive to people who did feel like, hey, you're talking about our family members. One of the things it took me a while also to accept is that, you know, because I wasn't there, it might have been a little bit incite a lot of other stuff that happened. That's the accountability that I had to, you know, over time realize to say, hey, listen, if you were going to do that or do any coverage on it, you either would have not done it at all or it would have been completely different with reverence.
Across Allen's entire history on the internet, it would be easy to paint him as a bad person. And while we're all human and we all make mistakes, Allen is an influencer, amassing over 5 million followers across all platforms. He isn't held to the same standard as the rest of us. Whenever a celebrity or influencer does pretty much anything, it's viewed and criticized under a microscope to millions of people, let alone them actually making a mistake. And a majority of influencers who are under controversy might just fake apologies to save their career or image. Allen was in a rare position where he didn't have to show any remorse or take any accountability because DJ Akademiks is an independent media platform owned solely by him, and still to this day one of the original and most popular places to get hip-hop news. If he didn't want to, he really didn't have to apologize. He quite literally could have never talked about the war in Chiraq again and been perfectly well off. The same rules that applied to other influencers didn't really apply to him, but he took accountability regardless. Most people envision someone taking accountability as some sort of external punishment, like public criticism, legal repercussions, or even a loss of reputation. But for most people, just like Faustus, it's that deep regret or resentment that just eats away at you on the inside. The inner conflict or feeling of self-betrayal he has for himself is often way more of a punishment than any external consequence he might face. And most of the time, this is enough to make anyone question their own actions.
That's one of the things as growth, as we're talking about growth and learning, you get to learn about the just even the gravity of their platform. Because even to this day, people still bring up the war in Chiraq.
When Allen's career comes to a close, he will be known as one of the most influential people in the hip-hop media space. Unfortunately, the stain of the war in Chiraq and the hate he receives will always be there. Luckily, people worth being around tend to not evaluate you solely based on your past mistakes or even your accomplishments, but rather your future actions, which Allen's are still unfolding. I won't ask anyone to forgive him or even change your view of him, only to just keep an open mind, because he has shown a glimpse, just like everyone else, he is capable of change. Unfortunately, the same cannot be said for the other character in this story. Faust's 24 years would soon come to an end, and he's merely hours away from having his soul eternally damned. But even now, there is still time to repent to God and be saved. Instead, he spends his last hours coming up with excuses, wishing that time would stand still so that midnight would never come, wishing for more time to repent instead of using the time he already has to repent. Finally, he turns to God, realizing that's the only way he can be saved. But he turns his attention back to the devil by pleading to him that he hopes he does not harm or offend him for naming Christ, and he ends up calling for Lucifer to spare him instead. Faustus doesn't repent, he doesn't feel any remorse, and he isn't saved. The clock strikes 12, and Faust's soul is dragged to hell. He wasn't damned by Lucifer or Mephistopheles, he ultimately damned himself. Even in the end, his pride blinded him from seeing his own mistakes. It is also revealed that he had the potential to even becoming a saint, but towards the end of the story, he's nothing but a hollow shell of what he used to be. This story's theme is one like many others that is chained to humanity and bound to happen over and over again. It goes to show what temptation, unchecked ambition, and moral compromise can do to a person. Everyone has a choice, and every choice has a consequence, and sometimes one mistake is all it takes to walk the same road as Faustus.